Hi, how has everyone been doing? I'm Michelle, and I've been reading from this book that a wonderful person, brother of ours, named Jim Stevens, he wrote. It's called 101 Proofs for God, and literally there are 101 proofs here for the absolute existence of God. I believe that he got some inspirational help from above to put together these incredible proofs, you know, and it's just really beautiful. Pictures on the inside, outside, and in fact, we're going to be taking a look at some. They don't come in as clear as I'd like them to just on the screen. You'll have to get a hold of the book. So we're going to be reading about whales, and this is proof for the existence of God, number 84 in this book called Whales. Yeah. I'm going to do my best with the vocabulary. All right, here we go. Everybody is familiar with whales, and we have all been astounded at how big they are. The blue whale can get up to 112 feet long and weigh 200 tons, as much as 33 elephants. But do you know that whales are mammals? That means that they are warm-blooded and they breathe air. Their babies are born alive and are fed milk. There are at least 40 different known species of whales. So if you are a faithful believer in evolution, you somehow have to find a way to believe that whales started out on land and not water. You already believe life started out in the ocean and then evolved by emerging onto the land and evolving into mammals. Somehow, those highly evolved mammals with 4 legs ended up going back into the ocean and becoming the largest animal on Earth. Darwin thought it was the bear that evolved into a whale because he saw them swim a lot. Over the years, evolutionists have come up with other mammals that are the ancestral relatives of whales. Their religious faith in evolution requires that some animal evolved into a whale. Even though there is no known ancestor in the fossil record of the whale, evolutionists claim there are lots of relatives along the family tree, and that's enough proof for them. How they decide what is a relative of the whale is always very interesting. Oh, and by the way, just to let a special listener know that we are working on trying to get some books to you in Europe. Okay? All right, thanks. So here we have it. Notice on this chart that the space is blank in every case where there should be a direct ancestor to a whale. Yep. Yep. The triangles with a question mark in them. Right. Okay. All the chart shows are species that supposedly branched off from the main line that leads to whales. If we have fossils of the animal shown, why is there not one single fossil in the direct ancestral line to the whale? Why is that? If you know the answer, let us know. The current animal getting the most credit for possibly becoming a whale is called Pachycetus, and was a wolf-like animal of about that same size, 5 or 6 feet long. Evolutionist proof seems to be all wrapped up in the similarity between their teeth and their ear bones of the two species. Look at the two wolf-like animals at the bottom of my chart, Indoheus and Pachyscetus. From those two, it is a huge, huge leap to the new body plan of the third one up, Amboleucetus, which I'll mention more in a minute. It is much more adapted to the water. Oh, I see what he's talking about here. Anyways, you guys will have to get the book. Okay. The Smithsonian Institute has an article titled, "How Did Whales Evolve?" which I thought might provide some good answers. It's a very long article and makes some sweeping claims about evolution. But if you pay attention, you'll see they have to admit that they still don't have any ancestors of whales. The article takes a long time going into the history of fossil discoveries, but it never answers how did whales evolve, which you would have expected from the title. At one point, they tell the truth and then lie about what it means. Okay, let's hear this. Though not a series of direct ancestors and descendants, each genus represents a particular stage of whale evolution. Together, they illustrate how the entire transition took place. Sure, we know it might have happened, but that's not science. They don't have any direct ancestors, but something else proves the transition is true for them. They even admit later that analysis of genes and amino acids refutes this ancestry line and indicates whales are related to hippos. The title and the article are pure propaganda. Uh-oh. Here is another example of an article that is even worse. How whales' ancestors left land behind. Uh-oh. This is from livescience.com. The following paragraph is their explanation for how whales' ancestors left land behind. Okay, what a joke. Okay. All right. Here we go. The first whale, a creature whose lifestyle, living on land but eating fish from the nearby sea, represented the early stage of this transition into the water, was a wolf-sized fish eater, whereas this creature had a body clearly adapted for land. Its relatives began acquiring features better suited to life in the water, such as webbed feet and a more streamlined, hairless shape. Well, how did they lose their legs altogether? In their religious zeal for evolution, lots of imagination is allowed. Here is another example. The actual bones discovered for the Pachyscetus, that's that animal, right? The wolf-like animal, were only the fragments of a skull and several teeth. The evolutionists produced from those bones a fully developed artist's drawing of Pachyscetus. Since this was going to be the ancestor of a whale, it was drawn splashing around in the water and eating fish. It had a long tail and legs beginning to look like webbed feet. But the story is not over. Later, more bones were discovered. The real bones included parts of 2 legs, some ribs, and a mammal-like tail. This forced the artists to come up with a totally new drawing. And here is an example of that. Does that look like a whale to you? Or the ancestor of a whale? The moral of this story is that you should always ask to see the actual bones that have been found and not the artist's drawing of bones. Okay. Look at this. This one. Look at all the question marks. Okay. So what do we really have? According to the picture, right? Pachycetus, which is wolf-like, goes from the wolfing link to, the wolf-like goes to a missing link, and then to another missing link, and to another missing link, to another missing link, another missing link, and another missing link. And then that's how the whale came about. Right. Just stop for a minute and think about the monumental indoctrination that has to be perpetrated for you to believe something like that. Where's the proof? There is no fossil record that is even claimed to be a direct ancestor at any stage. There are just artists' drawings. Another animal often named as a side lineage of the ancestral lines of whales is called Ambulocetus. This is another case of evolutionists' great imagination. Looking at the actual fossil bones that were found, compared to the artist's drawing, you might not be able to conclude whether it walked or swam primarily. It seems to have a pelvis for walking. Whales have no such structure. What is believed to be the back foot of Ambulocetus was discovered 5 meters above the rest of the fossil. In a lot of the drawings on whale evolution, you will also see a Basilosaurus, but they often leave out the fact that it was 10 times bigger than Ambulocetus, and the serpentine form of the body and the peculiar shape of the cheek teeth make it plain that Basilosaurus could not possibly have been the ancestor of modern whales. Here is another totally unscientific quote from American Museum of Natural History under the title of Whale Evolution. It is followed by a drawing from someone's imagination presented as fact. One group of hoofed mammals spent more and more time in the water, living on the abundant food there. Eventually, they left land altogether, evolving into the fully aquatic whales. Take a look at a few of these early extinct whales below. Let's see, where does he have those? Okay. It must be in another diagram. Oh, really? Jim says. Eventually they left land altogether? How scientific! Are people brain dead not to question such a statement? As anyone can easily see, for a wolf-like animal to eventually evolve into a whale, there have to be some tremendous, even unbelievable changes. Let's ask one of the obvious questions. Why? Evolutionists will say that natural selection chooses the fittest to survive. So a wolf, being a carnivore, is trying to catch fish. He would be better adapted if he had webbed feet, so he grew them. What? Then he would be better adapted if his tail grew and became useful for swimming And he developed bigger lungs to stay underwater longer. Which wolf is more likely to survive, in your opinion? A wolf that is trying to catch fish? Or a wolf that tries to catch a rabbit? It's too much. Even a wolf that is halfway to evolving web feet is worse off at catching rabbits and only very slightly better at catching fish. Since evolution takes many generations, which wolf is going to survive? No wolf, if he gets really hungry trying to catch fish, is going to evolve web feet. He is going to go catch a rabbit. Whatever the wolf might want to do, he can't just change his feet. The same argument applies continuously. A wolf is so absolutely unfit for swimming and living in water that any wolf that tried it would die long before it could reproduce. The fittest to survive are clearly the other wolves out catching rabbits. Now, let me just share a few of the amazing characteristics of a whale. If you are an evolutionist, you would have to come up with some explanation for how each one of these features could evolve slowly and gradually through many generations. All of the intermediate stages in a slow process are poorly adapted for survival. Okay, the first one, the tail. For whales, this is their primary source of power for swimming. There are flukes on the end that go out sideways, which add more driving force and maneuverability. A wolf tail swings mostly side to side, not up and down, and has very little of the strength needed for propulsion. That would have to evolve. It's a totally different design. Okay. Next one, skin. Mammals have hair and sweat glands. Whales do not. Whale skin has lots of extra fat or blubber. That's very different, right? This is a complete change of skin on the whole body. Okay, next one. Blubber. Whales have huge amounts of fat deposits called blubber, up to 11 inches thick. Wow. This serves as insulation in cold water and also protection for the very deep dives that they do. Lungs. Whales have a huge lung capacity that allows them to stay underwater for long periods of time. They also can slow down their metabolism to increase their dive time. The lungs of a humpback whale can hold about 5,000 liters of air. By comparison, human lungs hold about 6 liters of air. Whales are adapted for diving to great depths. In addition to their streamlined bodies, they can slow their heart rate to conserve oxygen. Blood is rerouted, wow, from tissue tolerant of water pressure to the heart and brain, among other organs. Hemoglobin and myoglobin store oxygen in body tissue, and they have twice the concentration of myoglobin than hemoglobin. What an incredible adaptation. Rerouting your blood. Oh my goodness! That alone sums it up, right? Just to be able to reroute your blood. Eyes. Whale eyes are specially adapted to be able to see in water, which has a far higher refractive index than air. Their eyes also have to be able to withstand the tremendous pressure down deep in the ocean. Sonar and hearing. Many types of whales have sonar. This means they have a special organ that can make a sound which goes through the water and bounces back when it hits an object. They also have a receiver to pick up the sound that bounces back, sends signals to their brains, and the brain then interprets what it means. It is similar to what bats can do. However, whales have to do it in water using the fatty lipids in their heads. This is very different from doing it in the air. And Jim says, okay, please see proof number 42, and it's called Bats and Echolocation. Odontoceitis. Odontoceites. There we go. Odontoceites are known as toothed whales. They have teeth and only one blowhole. They rely on their well-developed sonar to find their way in the water. Toothed whales send out ultrasonic clicks using the melon. Sound waves travel through the water. Upon striking an object in the water, the sound waves bounce back at the whale. These vibrations are received through fatty tissues in their jaws, which is then rerouted into the ear bone and into the brain, where the vibrations are interpreted. Wow. Does there exist a good explanation about how this echolocation ability could arise slowly over many generations? All the parts have to be there from the beginning, or the system doesn't work. Instead of sound passing through the outer ear to the middle ear, whales receive sound through their throat, from which it passes through a low impedance, fat-filled cavity to the inner ear. The whale ear is acoustically isolated from the skull by air-filled sinus pockets, which allow for greater directional hearing underwater. Wow. So here is another example of a dramatic change from a land animal. Whales have a very different process of hearing. Blowholes. All known terrestrial mammals have nostrils on the front of their faces. Whales have either one or two blowholes in the top of their heads. Think about all the changes that would be required for your nostrils to migrate to the top of your head. Oh my goodness. It's not just the hole in your skull that has to move, but all of the muscles, sensory nerves, air passages, nerve channels that connect to the brain, and probably a lot more, all have to change, and change drastically. Not only that, your lungs have to change tremendously as well, because you would need a gigantic lung capacity to stay underwater for a long time. Changing the size of your lungs requires changes in your ribs and spine, and probably your heart and other internal organs. Let's just say everything. Flippers. Clearly, whales have fins on the sides instead of legs, and feet going downward like mammals. How do legs turn into fins? The skin is different. The muscles are different and used differently. This requires rewiring to the brain as well. Special rib cage. What about the bones? Changing from a wolf-like animal would require almost a complete makeover of the skeleton. The pelvis in land mammals cannot be found in whales. How does a transitional species with half a pelvis manage to either walk or swim well? Whales swim well because of their massive tails and the muscles that move them up and down. Also, their well-developed flippers on each side help guide and propel them in the water. This takes a special rib cage adapted to the muscles to move the animal. A unique characteristic of their rib cages is that the ribs are not attached in the center of their bodies like other mammals. This is very important on deep dives where the pressure is gigantic and would crush their ribs if they were rigid. Reproduction. Whales somehow have to do it all in the water. Like other mammals, males have a penis and females have a vagina. If they really evolved from wolves, then both the male and female would have to evolve their respective sexual parts at the same time and in the same vicinity in the ocean to locate each other so they could mate. There are videos on YouTube of whale sex. Somehow, I have trouble imagining that could come about accidentally. And that's not all the problems they need to solve in order to reproduce. Now, here is a fun fact, even though I think the others have been quite a funny fact. The penis on the blue whale is about 8 to 10 feet long and weighs in at over 400 pounds. Baby whales come out the opposite of most mammals, tail first. Because they will soon need to breathe once they are born, the head comes out last to keep them from drowning. Wow. Try to imagine how evolution turned the babies around in the womb before birth so they wouldn't die. Wow. Mother whales have mammary glands like other mammals. The mother squirts out the milk, which is as thick as toothpaste. How did evolution get that right? Right? So it wouldn't dissolve in the ocean water, right? The milk has great amounts of fat to speed up the growth of blubber to protect the baby from the cold water. Wow, God thought of everything. Wow. It takes 11 months before the baby finishes up nursing. Baleen whales. One of the types of whales is really different. It has huge bristle-like walls in their mouth that act like sieves. Look at pictures of these whales and the structures in their mouth. Think about all the changes in their head size and shape, body, nervous system, eating habits, and much more that would have had to evolve separately over many generations. If their land mammal ancestors were successful, why make all the minor changes that would be less advantageous to develop this way of eating? The long plates of baleen strain through tons of water a day to capture food like krill, zooplankton, and small fish. The material is similar to human fingernails. Sleeping. Here is something you probably don't know about whales. This is the last one. Try to imagine how this could have possibly evolved. Unlike most mammals, whales are conscious breathers. All mammals sleep, but whales cannot afford to become unconscious for long because they may drown. Wow! While knowledge of sleep in wild cetaceans is limited, toothed cetaceans in captivity have been recorded to sleep with one side of their brain at a time so that they may swim, breathe consciously, and avoid both predators and social contact during their period of rest. Wow. My goodness. By the theory of evolution, every one of these adaptations would have had to evolve over many generations. So try to imagine having 5% of a tail, 10%, 20%, etc. Or how about evolving so half your brain can go to sleep while the other half stays awake? Think over all of the other amazing features listed above one by one. How can any one of these, if only partially completed, be selected for by natural selection? You'd have ridiculous looking deformed beasts that would die out in one generation because they are so poorly suited for the environment they are supposed to live in. Whales are an all or nothing proposition. So there has to be God. Wow, yeah. I have no more words for that. This gives me goosebumps. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. Let everyone know about this book. Yeah. All right. Take care. Have a good day.